Welcome everyone. This will be my AGATHA All Along episode 6 video, so we will break it all down. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos and watch out for spoilers if you haven't seen the episode yet. It's official, it was Billy Maximoff all along, kind of. AGATHA All Along episode 6 does a deep dive into teens history. And a boy, is it complicated one? Last week saw the return of Ivanora, Agatha's mother, who traumatized her. This week sees the return of Ralph Bonner, Agatha's fake husband, who she deeply traumatized. It's a vicious cycle, my friends, but it's certainly an entertaining one too. Let's get into it. We open on a sequence of Dean's bar mitzvah, revealing on the programs that his real name, at least, is William Kaplan. It's beautiful to watch his loving parents and community celebrate him, and clear that he grew up surrounded by lot of love. The fact that the centerpieces on the table during the party look like the trees on the witch's road is a nice touch as well. The production designer stay winning. One of the people at his bat mitzvah is Lilia in a fortune-telling tent. Lilia tells William a long journey lies ahead of him, one of the great transformation. That seems fine, right? Except she then reveals that his lifeline is broken in two as the light flicker. Oh, that's fine. He's understandably nervous, though Lilia tries to reassure him this could mean many things. He's becoming a man after all. She also mentions the Devil's Reverse card, and when he is confused, she says she thinks she just remembered something. In a lovely moment reminiscent of Agatha telling Dean, she doesn't have to know his name to know who he is. Lilia tells him she doesn't need to be psychic to know he's a good egg, and tells him to enjoy the now. That's all that's guaranteed. When he leaves, Lilia draws a sigil on a block of wood, puts it in his coat pocket, and promptly forgot she had done it. William's dad tells everyone something is happening with the anomaly in Westview, and everyone heads home in a panic. On the way back to the house, William finds the sigil before looking out the window and seeing the red light of the hex. His mother, who is driving, gets distracted by it and crashes the car into a tree. His parents immediately call for the police, with one of them being Alice. But William is bleeding out in the backseat, badly injured. William dies, but he then wakes up again calling for Tony. Billy Maximoff's soul is now in William Kaplan's body. Billy is extremely confused in the hospital, especially when he catches up a glimpse of himself in the reflective window. He doesn't recognize his parents, and he immediately gets upset when he hears them having a small disagreement, begging them not to fight. The doctors have said that his amnesia will wear off and he is cleared to be discharged soon. Is he ready for that? Yes. He assures them. Yes, he is. He's even more confused when he arrives at his unfamiliar home and his dog begins barking, not recognizing him. His parents grow increasingly anxious that he doesn't understand what's going on, and things get more complicated when Billy realizes he can read their thoughts, all the voices loud and distracting. After this revelation and a small freakout, he tries to act normal and heads to his room to look around the space, then practices saying that he is William Kaplan in the mirror. 3 years later, we see Billy and his boyfriend Eddie in the car. Eddie inquires about the block he always carries around, and Billy tells him it's a sigil, which is like a puzzle he hasn't solved. Billy hears Eddie debating in his head whether to tell him he loves him, which makes Billy panic. He pulls away from the kiss and admits to what happened on the day of that car crash, divulging that he is not really William Kaplan and that he still doesn't remember anything about what happened before the wreck. He then tells Eddie he loves him, and Eddie kisses him. He thinks he's crazy, but not because of what he said. Eddie does want to know though, if he is not William Kaplan, then who is he? Billy shows Eddie the evidence he's pieced together. Complete the newspaper reports about the hex. Eddie thinks that the anomaly turned out to be an Avengers training exercise gone wrong. But Billy tells him he's too trusting. Billy and Eddie watch a quick Jennifer Gale video before looking at footage of the anomaly online. Billy sees the ruins in the footage, which has given him a theory that it was a witchcraft. though most Westview citizens refuse to talk about it. He did connect with a guy on a Reddit who agreed to meet up with him in a parking garage. In the parking garage, the two see a man in a trench coat lurking in the shadows. He turns out to be a Ralph Bonner, whose real name is Randall. Randall is a paranoid because who wouldn't be? He remembers everything about what Wanda Maximoff did, what it felt like. It was like watching your life on a TV in your head, he says, but you couldn't turn it off. Billy asks him if he has any special powers from this, and he acts like Billy is nuts. Billy hears him pleading not to ask about Agatha in his head, which of course makes Billy ask. Randall agrees to tell him everything if they either give him a cash or promise to attend his one-man show. I respect the hassle. Randall says everything was worse for him than for other Westview citizens, as Agatha treated him like a puppet when she was making him play husband. Plus, she stole his house, completely ruining the market value, and still has his entire Blu-ray collection. She made him a terrible influence on Wanda's kids and even poisoned a dog. Randall doesn't know what happened to the kids, they just disappeared. But he thinks they probably got sucked up in the red bubble, like everything else Wanda created. Randall's still scared and refuses to face Agatha again. Word on the street is that she still lives there, but Randall wants Billy not to go. He does not know the kind of crazy that lady eats for breakfast. Billy does not heed the advice, immediately going home and listening to Lona's version of the ballad as he makes notes about what Randall told him before searching Agatha Harkness' Ancient Witch on Google and finding a photograph of her, as well as information about her past, on including the fact she is the only survivor of the Witch's Road. He does some research on the Witch's Road and realizes this could be the thing to give him what's missing and makes his way to Agatha's house in Westview. After Billy actually looks at Wanda's old house, he checks his spell book for a ready spell, which says he's going to need an important personal item to complete it. He texts Eddie mushy messages before taking the plunge and sneaking into Agatha's place. He finds her brooch before clumsily knocking over a lamp and climbing out her window. And we see the chase from the pilot from his perspective. It's much slower and less climatic in his reality, which is hysterical. Unlike in Actor Spell, he is also a total sweetheart, even offering to help Agatha after she falls. The interrogation happens in her living room as she is wearing Bonner family reunion shirt and brandishing a garden hose nozzle gun, and is also much less intense than Agnes' version of things. He tells her that she is typecasting as a guilty teen, but he swears that couldn't be further from the truth. He also notably doesn't ever see Rio when she does. Once he begins to do the spell, she brings out the duct tape. Once we get to the scene where she rips it off, we see her tell him his name is William Kaplan before admitting he is Billy Maximoff. Back in the present on the Witch's Road, Agatha crawls herself from the mud with an immense amount of struggle. She throws her jacket off, basically an extremely sad character death, and goes to find Billy, who crushes the sigil block in his hand and takes down his hood. There was a quiet debut, she tells him. She calls him out his lies about not knowing what a sigil was and wanting power. He tells her power isn't what she wants, though she seems unconvinced. When did Agatha figure it out? She suspected it when they first met. Even without his name, he and Wanda have the same tell. Very inconvenient for him. She wasn't sure until the big explosion though. She tells him it's nice to see him again and calls him Billy, which makes him realize she can hear him again. Every witch with a beating heart can, in fact. He feels bad about what he did to Lilia and Jen, but Agatha assures him that life goes on. She is killed more than she can count, so he shouldn't let it hold him back. He says he is not like her, yet even more Wanda paranoids, Agatha tells him not to feel guilty about his talent. He survived like witches have been doing for centuries. Who cares that he broke the rules? That's what kept him alive, as special and a witch. Bill tells Agatha he doesn't need her anymore. He's not sure he ever did. Right then, his power ceased to work and she mocks him. How is he going to finish though with all that power he can't control? he gets all nasty and scary again, asking what he wants the end of the road. It's not Wanda. She throws the town of strangers over him. It's not Vision, who knows where he is. It must be Tommy. He can't sense him. He just can't find him. Billy says that if she really wants to finish this together, she needs to know he doesn't trust her at all. She laughs in his face and tells him they should go and find the next tray. Last one, there is a nice person. But there are tears glistening in Agatha's eyes on and off through this entire scene. Is once again infusing her with much more depth and emotion than the character wants to let on. Give her the Emmy now. The episode ends with Billy muttering that he's not that nice. This is by far the longest episode of the show so far, and it certainly feels like it. I'm so glad we are finally giving this show some room to breathe, though it's a double-edged sword. This episode shows it's possible to slow down and do a deeper dive into characters instead of burning through a plot at a breakneck pace. So why haven't we been doing that? Billy deserves all of this compelling development, and while Alice may be a smaller character in terms of lore, I would argue she deserved significantly more than she got. With only 3 episodes left, I don't have a high hopes that Jen or Lilia are going to be fleshed out to this extent either. Of course, hard choices have to be made, but all the characters are so rich, and it's a shame they are not all going to be able to get this treatment. On more a positive note, I was delighted to see the Coven make cameos in William Kaplan's life. The reveal that Lilia is one who made the sigil was unexpected but excellent, and gives us some more insight into her character. Catherine Hahn and Joey Luki continue to be excellent scene partners, equally engaging in their dramatic and comedic moments. Seeing the tame reality of the car chase, the integration scenes had me laughing out loud and will make rewatching the pilot a blast. Agatha's overwhelming supportive reaction to Billy feels somewhat surprising, though it makes perfect sense for her character who has survived for centuries and values power above all else. I will say the fact that the Marvel social media team realized the final clip of this episode earlier in this day seems like a huge misstep, as it undercuts the tension and cliffhanger for those who watched. Still, the scene is a juicy one, showcasing Agatha's and Billy's new dynamic that is very reminiscent of her and Wanda's relationship in ways. It makes for some fascinating parallels, speaking of which it, of course, made the WandaVision fan in me thrilled to see how the hex impacted everything. If you find any reference during the episode that I didn't talk about in this video, please write them down in the comments. Thanks.